Welcome to this deep dive. We're tackling a maze that, well, millions of you might be trying to navigate right now. Professional college admissions here in India. If you're involved, you know the air feels thick with anticipation and probably a whole lot of anxiety.
It's May 25, 2025, and yeah, it is absolutely a high-stakes moment. Right now, across the country, students, parents, they're glued to screens, refreshing websites like seatonline.karnataka.gov.in or maybe jermaine.nta.ac.in.
Yeah, constantly hitting refresh. And just yesterday, the Karnataka Common Entrance Test, the KCET, results dropped.
Right.
You look at those numbers, over 3.3 lakh students registered. 3.1 lakh actually showed up for the exam, and nearly 2.8 lakh qualified for things like engineering, agriculture, pharmacy. It's just a massive pool of hopefuls.
It really is. And nationally, the JE Main 2025 results are already out. And, big congratulations to those 24 students who managed to nail that perfect 100 percentile score. That's incredible.
Absolutely incredible. But then on the other side, you've got NEET UG 2025 and the shadows of last year's paper leak. Well, they still seem to be hanging over it, pushing cutoffs to heights that feel almost unreal.
Yeah, dizzying is the word. We're talking a general category range this year, starting from 720 all the way down to 162 is just wow.
It really does feel like a high-stakes circus sometimes, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
You've got the entrance exams, then multiple counseling rounds, cutoffs that seem to shift overnight, and these incredibly complex quota systems.
And every state, every single institution seems to add its own unique twist to the whole thing.
Exactly. Like Tamil Nadu's engineering admissions, TNA. That kicked off back on May 8th. Over 14,000 applications just on day one.
Wow.
Puducherry Centak opened its non-NEET portal on May 12th. Even Delhi school admissions are already looking ahead, way ahead, to March 10th, 2026. It's constant.
It's a complete whirlwind. And you have to ask, how do we even begin to understand this system? For students and parents caught in the middle, it can feel less like a clear path to education and more like, an impossible labyrinth designed to confuse you.
That's exactly it. But what if there was a way to bring some kind of structure, maybe some sense, to all the chaos? We've been exploring this framework, one that you usually find in corporate boardrooms, helping companies figure out their strategy, not typically used for college admissions.
Right. It's called the Balanced Scorecard, developed originally by Robert Kaplan and David Norton back in the 1990s. And fundamentally, the Balanced Scorecard is a tool for strategic performance management. The key thing is, instead of just looking at the bottom line, the finances, it pushes you to look at an organization, or in this case, a process, from 4 different really crucial angles.
We get the whole picture, right?
Exactly, a holistic view.
And we think applying this specific lens, this balanced scorecard lens, to the college admissions process might actually uncover some really interesting insights. Could it make admissions less like a gladiatorial arena? And maybe, just maybe, a bit more navigable for everyone.
Well, that's what we wanted to explore. So let's dive into these 4 perspectives of the Balanced Scorecard and just see how they illuminate this incredibly complex admissions journey that so many of you might be on right now.
Okay, let's start unpacking this. Perspective 1, the financials. This is all about making it possible, for students to actually access this education without feeling like they need to sell a kidney.
Yeah, and right now the cost is, it's astronomical for a lot of families. You see fees ranging anywhere from maybe $50,000 a year in government colleges, which, let's be clear, is still a significant amount for many people.
Absolutely.
All the way up to a staggering euro lakh for a 5-year MBBS program in some private institutions.
And that's often just the sticker price, isn't it? The listed tuition. You've got to factor in all the add-ons that aren't always clear up front. Those really expensive coaching fees. We saw a mention of a 5 lakh crash course just for JEE prep.
Ooh.
Then you've got application fees for every single exam and college you apply to, plus travel costs for exams, for counseling rounds. It really feels like a financial black hole for families.
And this is where applying the financial perspective of the Balanced Scorecard gives us a unique insight. It shows that affordability isn't just about that top-line tuition fee. It's about all those hidden costs, the lack of transparent fee structures, and honestly, the immense difficulty people face trying to access financial aid that supposedly exists.
Right.
It really highlights how the system's financial performance, when you look at it from the student's perspective, can be, pretty abysmal, even if the institutions themselves seem to be doing okay financially.
That makes a lot of sense. It forces you to look beyond the college's balance sheet and onto the family's kitchen table, basically.
Exactly.
So what does this perspective suggest we could do?
Well, number 1, Transparency. It's absolutely crucial. Why don't institutions like, say, Anna University handling TNEA publish crystal clear, itemized cost breakdowns, including those often mysterious miscellaneous fees? No surprises should be the goal.
Yeah, just tell us what it costs. And scholarships, financial aid.
Yeah.
We know things exist, like the Karnataka government's fee waivers for SEST students through KCET. That's positive, of course.
It is.
But navigating the process often involves layers and layers of bureaucracy that are just incredibly difficult, sometimes impossible for families to get through.
Exactly. Imagine if you apply this kind of thinking, having a single window portal for all aid applications, maybe something like the Tamil Nadu RTE admissions portal. Although, interestingly, that wasn't even open for 2025 applications yet when we looked.
Right. Timing is everything, too.
But a streamlined access point like that could save parents huge amounts of stress and actually help ensure aid reaches the people who genuinely need it.
Okay, so here's where the financial lens gets maybe a bit provocative based on what we explored. This idea of actually capping private college fees.
It's definitely a bold suggestion, yeah. The concept is basically having some kind of regulatory body set reasonable ceilings, maybe based on factors like the type of course, the institution's ranking, things like that. It directly confronts the potential for, unchecked, exorbitant charges that just price most people out.
I can almost hear the pushback from private colleges already. You mentioned that funny example we saw, the BTech in artificial intelligence and unicorn studies.
Right.
How do you even begin to set a reasonable ceiling for something totally new or niche like that? It really highlights the complexity.
It does, absolutely. But the balanced scorecard's financial lens forces us to confront this affordability crisis head on. We have to consider systemic solutions, whether that's tougher regulation, truly transparent fee structures, or genuinely accessible aid programs. The core question it asks is this system financially viable for the customer, for the student, and their family?
That's a really critical reframing. Okay, let's move to the second perspective, the customer. Because the students and their parents who are going through this incredibly agonizing process, they definitely deserve better, right?
Absolutely. The customer here is the student, and, by extension, their incredibly stressed parents. How do they actually experience this whole thing? Often it feels less like a service designed to help them access education and more like, a frustrating, confusing, almost dystopian reality show.
It really feels designed against you sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Think about the pain points we saw just looking around. Checking KCET 2025 results, you need your registration number and the first 4 characters of your name, which is already a bit weird, only to find the websites are crashing constantly. Important information is buried deep inside these dense PDFs that honestly feel like they require legal training to decipher.
Or look at JE Maine. You mentioned over 10 lakh students registered for Session 2. The numbers are huge. 10,061,840 registered, 9,092,350 appeared. And they face this bewildering maze of scorecards, rank predictors, trying desperately to figure out which college they might actually get into. It's not user-friendly. It often feels actively user-hostile.
Yeah. So the insight from this customer perspective seems to be that the system often isn't designed with the user's actual needs or experience in mind at all.
Right. It prioritizes maybe administrative convenience or just historical processes over the student's actual journey.
So this perspective demands clarity, fairness, accessibility, all from their point of view. What could that look like in practice?
Well, one key idea that comes up is a truly unified admissions portal. Imagine applying for multiple major exams, KCET, GMain, NEET UG, TNEA, CENTAC, all in one single place with one account.
Oh, wow.
No more creating dozens of different profiles and re-entering the exact same information over and over again.
That alone would be revolutionary.
Yeah.
And communication. It needs a complete overhaul. Ditch the bureaucratic jargon. Stop saying things like provisional affiliation and just explain clearly. Okay, based on your score of 85%, here is a list of colleges you are eligible to apply to this year. Just plain language, please.
Yes. And supportive counseling. Not these super expensive private consultants that only some families can possibly afford.
Right.
But free, widely available, government-run helplines. Staffed by people who genuinely understand the entire complicated system and can offer real, personalized guidance.
This lens also makes you think really hard about inclusivity, doesn't it? Yep. The UGC, the University Grants Commission, has pushed for more standardized tests, which, okay, makes sense in some ways for comparison.
Sure.
But it can put students from, say, rural backgrounds or those who just don't have access to expensive coaching at a significant disadvantage compared to their peers in big coaching hubs like Coda or Hyderabad.
That's a crucial point the customer perspective really brings to the forefront equity. You see examples like Tamil Nadu's policy to reserve 25% of seats in certain private institutions under the RTE Act, the Right to Education Act, for economically weaker students. Those are attempts potentially to level the playing field.
Attempts, yeah.
But the overall system shouldn't feel like some exclusive club that's only designed for those who can afford to buy their way through its complexities.
Right. It should feel like an opportunity truly open to everyone based on potential. Okay, let's turn to the third perspective. Internal processes. This is looking under the hood at how the machine itself actually runs. And from this angle, admissions often look like a bit of a logistical nightmare from the inside, too.
Oh, they absolutely do. I mean, just take that TNEA timeline we saw as an example. Applications open May 8th, right? And then you have these strict deadlines. Registration by June 6th, document upload by June 9th, then a verification period from June 10th to 20th. The rank list comes out June 27th, and then there's a grievance period until July 2nd.
Wow, that's tight.
It's incredibly tight. And if you miss one single date in that sequence, you could just be out of the running entirely. That level of sequential, rigid processing creates huge bottlenecks and just immense stress.
So the insight from this internal processes perspective is that the system is really fragmented, isn't it? And it seems heavily reliant on these manual, step-by-step procedures that are just prone to errors and delays.
Exactly. So it demands efficiency, it demands streamlining. How can we make this machine run better?
So what could that look like? What ideas came up?
Well, ideas we saw included things like automating document verification much more effectively, maybe even using AI for some of the initial screening. I mean, if an IM Ahmedabad student reportedly used something like ChatGPT to speed up a project, the underlying technology clearly exists to automate some of these tedious tasks like cross-referencing mark sheets and category certificates.
That makes sense. And what about the counseling rounds? Why do we still have these multiple, incredibly complex, state-specific rounds like KCE does? Why not move towards something like a single, really transparent round with real-time, verifiable updates on seat availability? It's 2025. The technology is absolutely there to manage that kind of system.
It absolutely is. And a major internal process issue, a huge one, is the sheer lack of coordination between all the different agencies involved. You've got the NTA, the National Testing Agency, running JEE and NEET.
Okay.
You've got KIA, the Karnataka Examinations Authority, running KCET. And a university manages TNEA in Tamil Nadu. CENTAC in Puducherry runs theirs. They all operate largely independently, often with conflicting timelines, different criteria.
It's chaos. And trying to get all those states and national bodies to agree on some kind of common framework or even just aligning timelines, well, that sounds like, shall we say, a diplomatic challenge of the highest order.
A massive undertaking, no doubt. But the internal processes lens really shows how critical it is to map out these flows, see where the blockages are, and figure out where integration and automation could drastically improve efficiency for everyone involved.
Okay, that brings us nicely to the final perspective, learning and growth. This is all about whether the system is actually designed to learn from its mistakes and adapt, or if it's just kind of stuck repeating the same cycles year after year.
And frankly, the system has had its share of pretty major oops moments recently, hasn't it?
It certainly has.
That NEET 2024 paper leak scandal was a huge blow to public trust, and it exposed some significant vulnerabilities in the process, specifically the one managed by the NTA.
Or even locally, here in Karnataka, that whole debate around the age limit for Class 1 admissions. Tried to shift it from 6 years old down to 5.5 years and facing pushback on grounds of scientific integrity.
Right. These aren't just isolated incidents. The learning and growth perspective looks at them and sees potential systemic failures, things the process needs to learn from to prevent them from happening again.
Exactly. And the key insight here seems to be that the system often isn't using the data it already has to improve itself.
Precisely. A learning-focused system would rigorously track things like student dropout rates after the counseling rounds. It would identify colleges that consistently have unfilled seats. It would analyze where the bottlenecks are in the whole process.
Like that data point we saw. 2,074,595 students qualified for engineering through KCET last year. Okay, great number. But how many actually enrolled in an engineering seat through KCET?
Exactly. That difference, that gap is crucial data.
It tells you something important.
It absolutely does. That data can help predict demand more accurately. It can inform seat allocation strategies. It can highlight exactly where the process might be failing students or institutions.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science, really. It's just using the information you have to get smarter.
And training seems vital too, right? The people actually running these complex processes, the counselors, the administrators, they need continuous updates on rule changes, new technology, best practices.
Definitely. And crucially, a system that's really focused on learning must involve the actual users, the students, and their parents. You need active feedback loops.
Right.
That Centac portal example in Purdue, opening on May 12th, but only initially covering 6 colleges, that's a perfect example of a pain point that user feedback could flag really early. That allows the system to learn and maybe correct course much more quickly.
So the learning and growth perspective really pushes for data-driven decisions, continuous training, and actively incorporating user feedback to build a smarter, more responsive system over time, not just doing the same thing over and over.
Exactly. It's about building the actual capacity to improve, not just, repeating processes year after year and kind of hoping for a different outcome.
And amidst all these numbers and systems and frameworks, it is just so vital to remember the real people, the individuals going through this whole process.
Yeah, the human stories really ground everything we're talking about. We came across the story of Shriya from Chennai, reported just a few days ago, May 22nd, 2025. Her journey, from apparently washing soda bottles to help her family to earning a spot at Etherage College for women, that's incredibly powerful.
It really highlights the immense stakes involved, doesn't it? And the profound need for a process that's actually fair, that genuinely creates opportunities based on merit and need, not just based on privilege or someone's ability to navigate all the chaos.
Right.
A balanced scorecard framework, especially if it focuses on that customer perspective, the financial accessibility with an eye on learning and growth, could actively support more stories like hers, just by making the pathway clearer and more accessible.
And then you have someone on the other end, like Arnav Singh from Bhopal, who achieved that perfect 100 NTA score in JMain 2025. His strategy focusing hard on the insert texts, taking weekly mock tests, really utilizing doubt-clearing sessions, it clearly worked for him.
And that's where the learning and growth perspective ties right back in again, doesn't it? How can the system itself learn from successful strategies like Arnav's? How can it make those fundamental resources and approaches more accessible to everyone, not just those students who can afford expensive coaching at places like, say, Allen Career Institute? It's about democratizing the what works.
It truly is. Identifying those success factors and then finding ways to disseminate that knowledge, that opportunity, much more broadly, that becomes part of the system's learning mandate.
So we've taken this deep dive, using the balanced scorecard as our guide, really, through the incredible complexities of professional college admissions here in India.
And it's pretty clear, I think, that this framework isn't some kind of magic wand that's going to fix everything overnight.
No.
But it does offer a really powerful way to look at the entire system through these crucial interconnected lenses. Is it affordable? That's the financial lens. How is the experience for students and parents? That's the customer lens. Is it efficient internally? That's internal processes. And is it capable of learning and improving over time? That's learning and growth.
And by intentionally focusing on all those areas, the process really could become fundamentally fairer, significantly more transparent, and frankly, probably less likely to cause nationwide ulcers every admission season.
It really suggests a clear call to action, doesn't it? For the key players involved, the NTA, the KIA, Anna University, Centac, all the others, to genuinely consider adopting such a structured, multidimensional approach, to truly center and listen to the students and parents they're supposed to serve, and yes, maybe even prioritize building a more user-friendly website or two along the way.
Definitely wouldn't hurt. And to you, if you are one of the millions right now navigating those cutoffs, the confusing counseling rounds, just the sheer overwhelming volume of information, hang in there. It is an incredibly challenging process, and we hope this deep dive maybe offers a little bit of perspective on why it feels that way sometimes. And remember, you are so much more than just a rank on a list or a score on some scorecard.
Absolutely. The resilience, the tenacity, the sheer grit that you are building just by pushing through this system that is a powerful thing in itself. It's a skill set that is going to serve you incredibly well no matter what course or college comes next for you.
Yeah, maybe. Just maybe. After successfully navigating this admissions process, you're already qualified for a career in, I don't know, complex logistics or maybe even high-stakes international negotiation.
Or possibly stand-up comedy if the sheer absurdity of it all hasn't completely broken your spirit yet.
There is that. Keep exploring these ideas, keep asking how systems like this can be improved, and importantly, keep recognizing your own strength and getting through it all. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.